Miss K responds, I really like how Brandon is happy to stand alone and call them out for their shit behavior. Says a lot about his character. Shows them all up for what they are, a collective trying to get at the key witnesses in this case. Stay safe, Brandon and Anita. I feel as DM's court date gets closer, the heat is going to increase. Friends, welcome back to the video. Still talking and going on about Brandon Lemieux. He's got another message he sent me, and we're going to read it here tonight in regards to what I had put out on an earlier video with regards to this Daniel getting his vehicle stuck in a field. It ends up that you guys know all kinds of things about it, and we're going to touch on that in just a moment. Please prepare to comment in the section below and get the conversation started. Annette156 says, Hi, AB. Justin was talking about Daniel getting the car stuck. Possibly the same loud car that Janie heard behind her house? And you're correct about the different cars. I'm wondering now if those trips were made by different people. Also, I hope we find out which car Daniel had crushed. I believe it was the Dodge Journey. Was it the loud car that he got stuck? I truly believe this group all knows what happens to these babies. They all disgust me. Thank you, Brandon, Brad, and Justin for speaking up for these kids when their own family doesn't even care. Yeah, salute to you. Unfortunately, the Canadian justice system won't do enough. They just let Douglas Worth go in Nova Scotia after he received a life sentence for unaliving a little girl. We need to do better. Love your show, AB. I appreciate the comment. Starting to like this chicken whisperer at 1111. Every so often someone comes in that makes some valid points and they stick out from the rest because the majority, not the majority, but a percentage of the new people that you see comment or join in usually are there for white knighting or glazing reasons. Fluffers. I've banned a couple already. I've kept a couple around just to make a point out of their stupid comments. Or, as an example, Chicken Whisperer 1111 says, car getting stuck is an old rumor. There's dirt and grass around the wheel wells of the Dodge in the driveway. In front of one with the four-wheeler. There's early footage somewhere that can be seen of EM and DM walk by it, and they're looking at it. Again, rumor, but I did, with my own eyes, see the dirt and stuff around the wheel wells in old pictures. I wonder where it came from. This early footage somewhere that people are talking about of Daniel and somebody else walking by, Earl Martell, EM, walking by a camera. Follow up in my comment section. Tell me what you know about that. Was that the report at the local gas station? Is that where he was on camera? I wonder if they, after so many trail camera, they must have collected a ton of footage. Anyway, so interesting that you bring this up, Karen Steves. If Alvin said it was Hayden, then that's pretty solid. It sounds like Alvin just happened to come across these people in a car and the girl in the woods. It doesn't sound like that to me. In fact, something specifically about that, how Alvin stuck out because he was not clothed for searching for kids, you know, and the end of April, beginning of May. He was out in a t-shirt, stuck out a little bit. And he had mentioned to Brandon that they found a t-shirt. I mean, anything's possible, but it didn't sound like that the way that Brandon put that is what I'm trying to say. So I'll wait to see if there's any conversation about it. Does Alvin live nearby? This sort of goes along with the story that Malaya handed the children off to someone. No, they're down there planting evidence. I don't know where you're getting that from, Karen. You're pulling. Like, handed the children off to somebody, what, their bodies? No. It has everything to do with a pink t-shirt and planting of evidence in the tree. They're probably up to a whole lot more. You know, there's probably more, not just one little part that they were coming in to carry out. Who knows how incorporated into all of this they are. That's what we're trying to figure out. Trying to fit in, trying to get our minds wrapped around. I'm not trying to dismiss your thoughts in that sense. I just don't get that in this case. Thank you for the comment, though, Karen. You know, like Hockley Glenn says, they must both be involved, as all family members from both sides are colluding, in my opinion. That's what it looks like. Mackenzie's, Hayden being laid aside, planting of evidence, something else is going on. Yeah, they're covering something up. They're planting evidence out there on the road, 10:40 a.m. It's the way it's being made out to be. Ilyanka, you got a good point. I did hear out of Daniel's mouth that he had his car crushed. So now we have a mechanic garage fire. He's not really actually a mechanic. A traded in car, 2 car crashes, and now a crushed car. Sounds a whole lot like destruction of evidence to me on both sides of the family. Yeah, the more we get to learn about this case, I agree with you, Tashpond, in response to that. You said agreed. I think the main reason charges are taking so long is because there are a lot of charges coming down. Yeah, it's a dynamic case. There's a lot of people involved in that sense. I mean, I wonder, of course, that's what the investigation is looking into, but I wonder how many of them are doing it out of a reason of covering for Daniel, or how many of them are actually involved potentially in the event that took the lives in order for them to all have to cover up for one another. Seems to me that it's just easier to get the scumbag out of the family and turn him over to police rather than cover up all his wrongdoings, because, dude, he's a liability. This dude needs help, even from the perspective of the criminal world. But we're talking about a whole nother level of hell here underneath the criminal world. They don't look kindly upon individuals who bring harm towards children, Ninchi. You have a lot in common, Ninchi, with Daniel and Leia. Come to find out. Oh, I'm going to mention this because it tickled my imagination. Speaking of mine shafts, I was watching a live over on It's a Crowning Shame the other day, and someone in chat said that Janie's old boyfriend is Andrew Penny, the guy whose body was found in the mine shaft in '79. Do you know anything about that, AB? Not at all. Not at all. Janie, do you know anything about that? Anybody else out there know anything about that? Let me know in the comment section below. Darlene, good morning. I don't know where you got this. I'm so glad that you mentioned it, though. Darlene says, good morning, AB. I'm catching up now. As soon as Daniel said that Brandon was discharged from the army and was mentally unstable, trying to discredit him, I knew that Brandon was being truthful. The same as when Janie and Daniel dissed the neighbor and we found out what Brad and Justin had to say. They're telling the truth. Absolutely. No different. Brandon's a former engineer, a combat engineer, I believe. He's not just some schlep pushing brooms, getting coffee for the colonel. But it goes back into the type of individual that he is and what he was doing that day. His history speaks for itself as to the reasons why the gentleman Brandon was monitoring emergency services, heard the reports come out as soon as the dispatch was released. In the area, heard the chatter, decided, that's right where I am, may as well go and help. There's nothing wrong about any of that, although, what was that, Mama Ange 420? I kept your message around for a reason, because obviously if you're claiming that he's saying different versions and that somehow he said that he heard the vulnerable persons alert, which of course I think was the RCMP first released it, issued a public statement at 420, but that's not in relation to the actual dispatch call that goes out, right? That goes out upon receipt of the call into 911, the chatter that you hear over police band radio. Well, it's all microwave now, but Karen corrected me. It's Stewiacke Road. They don't pronounce the E on the end of that. Good to know. Probably some sort of Acadian thing. Who knows? The Bear Paws says, does Brandon know about Scamnita? Well, we're through that phase now. We're past the Scamnita phase. Hopefully she doesn't need to refer to such things. But we refer to her as Anita now. She's back in our good books. And maybe, the Bear Paws, you forget that Anita and I have made up in the background. For real. So now we get into the message, the latest response from Brandon Lemieux. Hi, AB. You asked about Daniel being pulled out of the mud. I'll tell you what I was told. During the weekend in November, when PBMH was conducting its search, I was also out searching behind the old Getty's property and dumping grounds behind Daniel's. Before leaving, I decided to do a few more loops around the area. By that point, I had been followed for what I believe was the third time by a red Dodge Ram. I decided to stop and speak with the driver as I was uncomfortable being followed. This individual had appeared on multiple occasions in areas where I was searching or parked. This person in the red Dodge turned out to be Wayne McKenzie. I pulled over on what I believe was McLeod Road, although it may have been Matheson Road, the road that Harvey McKenzie lives on, or lives off of. I pulled to the side and Wayne pulled up behind me. The interaction began somewhat heated, but I was able to de-escalate the situation, and we ended up talking for over an hour. Some of the things Wayne told me were deeply disturbing. So was Wayne the gentleman, let me know in the comments, that had that brief audio clip that was going off on Daniel for messing up her washer, and basically ruining her life, forcing her in to be living in the driveway in that dilapidated RV, smashing her car up, the kids, Jack and Lilly, being sent to school smelling like urine, starving the children. Some of the things Wayne told me were deeply disturbing. There are certain details I will not share here, but all of that information has been provided to MCU. Regarding the vehicle being stuck, Wayne told me, source in here is Wayne McKenzie, told me that the night before the children went missing, or as he later corrected himself, possibly 2 nights before, as he could not clearly remember, Daniel had gotten his Dodge Journey stuck and badly damaged it. Wayne stated that family members asked Daniel where this happened, but that Daniel refused to tell them. He also said that they asked who pulled him out, and Daniel allegedly told them it was a friend, but would not identify that person. Now, Wayne appeared very upset with Daniel and expressed anger over what he believed Daniel and Malaya had brought upon the family. He told me he hoped Daniel would go to prison. Now, remember what Wayne said about what he hoped ended up happening to Meadow, like her being adopted out and sent far, far away? What else does he know, I wonder? He told me he hoped Daniel would go to prison, and he also alleged that Daniel and Malaya had been starving the children. Those allegations came directly from Wayne himself, who was a member of the family. One question that stood out to me was why Daniel would refuse to disclose where he became stuck or identify the person allegedly helped pull him out. Wayne also told me that Daniel had the Dodge Journey towed to 3D Auto in Stellarton and had it scrapped, crushed, I'm assuming. I was later informed that contact was made with the business and that this information was verified. Thanks, AB. So Wayne McKenzie's down there on the corner, kind of. Harvey. So you did a loop on your four-wheeler back where Janie's the dumping grounds. You call this the dumping grounds. This is behind Daniel and Malaya's house. Hey, Mr. Bradley Wall. Just down the road from Wayne's. Old Harvey is over here. So again, I find this map that he sent me, Brandon, very, very interesting. Here's the map showing exactly where the pink shirt was. Not blanket. Drives me wild. So many think that there was a blanket there. It was without a doubt a brand new pink child's shirt. I was inches away from it. So you'll see there, we've pointed it out in a previous video, but just for your reference here, you can go on Google Earth yourself and take a look back there. Where the trail meets the road. There's Garlock Road right there, you know, the property in behind the house, and there's a trail essentially leading right to it. You can't really see it as well as if you go out on Google Earth, zoom around, spin it around, and you can see like somebody's been through there with either a four-wheeler or walking, but have worn a path in the shrubbery, and you can see it from space. You can see it from the imaging. And it leads right to that pink t-shirt. Something that was out there since the get-go, only it wasn't Brandon's t-shirt story. This marker was out there because I made a Google Earth map first couple of weeks. And that's exactly where I had it marked. Not out of luck or guessing, but because the maps that were being sent around were more accurate. But it was being referred to as the pink blanket, because that's what we've been led to believe. So I'm very curious as to what Brandon has to think with the pink blanket situation compared to your pink t-shirt. There's a distinction between the two.